Dear friends, dear delegates, dear EPP family, I think, first of all, in name of all of you, let me thank again our Spanish friends, our Spanish hosts, Alberto, the front row, but also Dolores and Esteban, for hosting us, for inviting us here to Valencia. España siempre ha estado en el corazón de Europa y hoy el corazón de Europa late aquí en Valencia. So thank you so much for this. And dear friends, it's not just the great Spanish culture, the sun, the food, it's really that we are among winners. I just want to remind all of us from all over Europe that since Alberto is president of Partido Popular, they won all elections from the national to the European elections. In last year, European elections, Partido Popular doubled the seats in the European Parliament, and soon Alberto will be Prime Minister of Spain. I'm sure about this. Congratulations to this. Dear friends, last time when we met for an electoral congress, it was in Rotterdam. Some of you mentioned this already, 2022. 3 years ago, you elected me as a successor of Donald Tusk. And let's be honest, the EPP was in a defensive situation. The left spoke about a social democrat decade. The Greens were setting the agenda. Macron and the new liberals said already that the movements are the future and the parties are the old stuff. We were in opposition in 19 countries in Europe. Numerous commentators had already declared the political end of Christian democracy in Europe. Rotterdam was for us as EPP a historic turning point. And, dear colleagues, we stood up. We did it the EPP way. We were listening, we were unifying, we were delivering, and you know me, never in an ego show, always in a team approach, in a family perspective. The EPP method paid off finally. Rotterdam, 8 prime ministers and presidents, council members, and today in Valencia, 13 prime ministers of the EPP. The socialists have 3, the liberals have 3, and EPP have half of the council. Let's be proud about what we achieved in the last 3 years, dear friends. And Roberta and Ursula did it already, but let's enjoy also, from my point of view, for a few seconds again, the last 3 years. Remember our longest-serving colleagues on the council table. Kyriakos Mitsotakis and Andrei Plenković have been re-elected 3 times and doing a great job for their country. Congratulations to this. The president of Cyprus, Nikos Christodoulides, we called each other after his victory, and then he committed, yes, I am EPP and I'm proud about this. Anita, you agreed on this principle to do so. Luc Frieden won in Luxembourg. We have Karpati under Boyko's leadership strong in Bulgaria, back in the government there. We won the north of Europe, so the icebreaker was Ulf Kristersson. And then Petri Orpo followed. We have Selina Ivica, and soon Simon Harris in Ireland will follow as Taoiseach. Dear friends, in several countries currently led by the EPP, we are in campaign in this moment of time, and we are crossing fingers. For example, for our Portuguese colleagues, Portugal deserves stability, and Luis Montenegro is the man who can provide this stability. And dear friends, Romania, for us as EPP, an important country. I want to thank Klaus Johannes for his service, and now we are crossing the fingers for Crin Antinescu to become the next president of Romania. All the best for our campaigners there. Today we have already listened to the new Chancellor of Austria, and Christian, I want to thank you, because in our talks over Christmas break, when you did the negotiations, I was sure that the ÖVP will defend our principles as EPP in the negotiations, and you are the guarantor that Austria is embedded in a pro-European approach, thank you for this, as also the next Chancellor of Germany will do so. So Friedrich Merz, congratulations and all the best for next week in the German Bundestag. Dear colleagues, in Belgium, in Czech Republic, in France, I want to pay respect to Michel Barnier, who showed the French people how a good government should look like. And I want to also thank Antonio Tajani in Italy. He is a guarantor for a pro-European stable development of Italy. Dear colleagues, I cannot mention all 50 EPP parties and 16 associated parties. We are a strong family, but allow me to express only from two perspectives additional successes. One perspective is the external one. Dear colleagues, we are governing also in Switzerland with Gerhard Pfister. We are strong in the Western Balkan countries, in a lot of regions there. And soon Erna Solberg, here in front of me, has a good chance to become again Prime Minister of Norway. So we are also outside of the European Union extremely strong, and we are proud about this. And two successes are really close to me personally, dear friends, of the last 3 years. I want to mention and I want to remind us about what Donald Tusk told us 3 years ago. He was asking us, shall I go back home to Poland? Shall I pick up the fight against PiS and Kaczynski? And he did so. And he brought Poland back as a sovereign, strong country inside of our proud European Union. Thank you to Donald Tusk. And soon Rafał Trzaskowski will become president and they will finalize their mission in Poland. And finally, to mention those who are really close to me personally, dear colleagues, a front-line country in the fight against Russian propaganda, developing a small and weakened country towards a proud European modern country. You know probably from whom I speak. I speak about Moldova, and I want to congratulate the amazing success story of Maia Sandu as re-elected president of Moldova. Congratulations to your success story and all friends in Moldova. Dear colleagues, we made it, we did it. That's EPP at its best. And based on these national success stories, we also won impressively the European elections 2024. 1 year ago in Bucharest, we told people we are ready. We are ready. We voted for our manifesto based on our first item, that is listening. Listening to farmers, to entrepreneurs, to students, to pensioners, to all parts of our society. And for us, European democracy does not start in artificial citizens' forums, but right here in this Congress hall, where people and politicians from all over Europe come together. I want to mention our associations, YEP, the Seniors Union, our women's organization, the workers, the farmers, and many more. We are proud about this contribution. And I also want to mention our associations in the OSCE, the Parliamentarian Assembly, in OSCE, in the Council of Europe, in NATO. And Sari, I want to mention especially our mayors, because we are proud to be the Mayors' Party of Europe. The Committee of Regions plays a special role. Congratulations to all the colleagues there in this region. Dear colleagues, together with the whole presidency, and I'm proud about this team that we worked together the last 3 years, we delivered on content with our program. And after listening, not being populistic, but showing leadership, giving true answers and defining the main ideas for tomorrow. Security, prosperity and democracy were the 3 pillars of our electoral manifesto. And we secured as EPP, just to remind everyone, a democratic Europe. We stick to the lead candidate concept. Our lead candidate, Ursula von der Leyen, delivered a great and successful campaign. And just to remind everyone, 50 million people in Europe voted for us as European People's Party. Ursula von der Leyen convinced she has a strong mandate to lead in the future of Europe, and that's why we are so proud that she is re-elected as President of the European Commission. Thank you, Ursula, for what you did. And based on this mandate, also we secured the re-election of Roberta Metsola. Roberta, you stand for a new generation. You stand also for the modern way of doing EPP politics. Roberta, you should know your party is proud to having you in the lead of Europe. Congratulations to Roberta Metsola. And by the way, Ursula said it already, but I have to repeat it. By the way, 2 female presidents of the European institutions, one from the biggest country and one from the smallest country. That's also EPP at its best, dear friends. Let's be proud about this. The EPP group in the European Parliament counts today 188 colleagues. We are the only centre party who won in the last European elections. And don't forget, not only because we won on national level with our EPP parties, because also I convinced further parties to join our family. I want to tell you that the expansion strategy we defined at the beginning 3 years ago worked. New colleagues from Denmark, from the Netherlands, from Czech Republic, they joined the EPP group in the European Parliament, some more liberal, some more conservative colleagues, today all of them EPP family. And I remember Friday after the European elections last year, it was the 14th of June, around 30% of Hungarian people voted for a new movement. It was a surprise, it was a success. The TISA party in Hungary was born, and I traveled to Budapest. I met Peter Magyar. You know, they had no party structure at all. We met in a business hotel in Budapest. And I told him the EPP is the party of Europe. The EPP is the party of rule of law. And your 7 MEPs elected in Hungary must join the EPP family. And yes, they joined the EPP family. And I tell you, in spring next year, the TISA party will end the politics of corruption in Hungary. Orban will retire and Peter Magyar will be the new face of Hungary in the EPP family. Yes, dear colleagues, we won. And after winning, as expressed already by several speakers today, it's about delivering. And that's probably the key message of Valencia. We work hard, we deliver. EPP is trustworthy. That is what we are expressing, that is what we are telling to people. Without us, dear friends, Europe would have followed the Greens in their fight against the single market and modern trade agreements like CETA. Imagine for a second standalone in Trump's world without any alternative trade agreements. We are the ones saving European economies. Without us, where would our industry and our jobs be if we would have followed the ideologically driven climate policy by Franz Timmermans? To protect climate is a key challenge for our generation, but we make climate policy in creating jobs, dear friends. Without us, what kind of landslide would the populists have won in the last European elections if we would have not changed the course on migration policy? 1 year ago, we finalized the Migration Pact. We signed agreements with Egypt and Tunisia. And, if needed, we as EPP were ready to build up fences in Finland, in Poland, in Greece, to stop instrumentalization of migration, dear friends. We reduced the number of illegal migrants by around 50%, and that's the method to fight against populists in Europe, to deliver on content. And most importantly, and it is about the question, without us, dear colleagues, war in Ukraine. Where would Europe's security be now without our contribution? Sanctions against the brutal dictatorship of Putin, our humanitarian assistance for our Ukrainian friends, arms supplies, an EU perspective, a clear EU perspective for Ukraine to join our union. Dear colleagues, we did it. Orban, Le Pen and Weidel are surrendering European interests for getting a picture with Putin. Today, we are building up the European defense builder. We are defending the European way of life. And first of all, our Ukrainian friends are doing so. And that's why it's such a privilege to have Petro Poroshenko, Yulia Tymoshenko and Vitaly Klitschko among us. Thank you so much for all you do for us and for Europe. Dear colleagues, whatever Washington will do, we as EPP are on the side of freedom fighters in Belarus, Armenia, Georgia, Ukraine. They can count on us. Thanks to all of you, dear friends, Christian democracy is again in Europe's driving seat. That's in a way the summary of the last 3 years of EPP on European level. And let me, dear colleagues, express then what is next. Just like in a football game, every championship celebration is followed by a training camp. That's why I initiated 1 year ago our party reform. We will vote tomorrow on this, more the technical question, how to make our party more efficient. Politically, the tasks ahead of us are enormous or huge. An authoritarian wave is sweeping across the world and eating its way into Europe. A lot is at stake, dear friends. What are the others doing? Social Democrats give up on representing the working class. Greens and liberals are escaping only into nice city quarters of well-educated and privileged voters. The populists in Europe are strong because too many Democrats are weak, dear friends. And I spoke already about our EPP DNA. Listening, People's Party at its best, then leading, giving a perspective, and delivering, being trustworthy. This is fundamental for us, but is it enough? I tell you, I think it is not enough. Everybody in this hall feels we are entering into a new historic phase. The era of the last 20 years, no question good years, that era is gone. Years of, I would call it, pragmatic individualism, a quiet technocratic policy understanding. We as EPP, we told people, we manage things, don't worry, we will take care about this, Europe is in good hands. Politics became, in a way, boring, also without alternatives. Perhaps the 2024 elections last year were the last ones we could win with such a political approach. Now, a new era is about to start. And to win the fight, we need to provide not only good facts and concepts, but also a desire for the future, hope and enthusiasm. Our main political competitors are the extremes from left and right, those fighting against Ukraine, against rule of law and against Europe. If we don't define the political aspiration, the bigger goal, our story, our narrative, the populists will set the agenda with their hate speeches, splitting and destroying. To win the fights, dear friends, we have to win the minds and the hearts of Europeans. And too many in politics simply say what they don't want. They are against Trump, against Green Deal, against gender ideology, against Europe. We, as EPP, have to be the party who tells people what we do want. And let's be more specific. The main task of our generation today is clearly defense, already mentioned by several speakers today. The common defense and foreign policy. In the 1950s, in the last century, Christian Democrats as de Gasperi, Adenauer and Schuman didn't speak about tanks or numbers of troops. They said that's a business for the generals. They spoke 7 years after the horrible Second World War. They spoke about making peace with the arch enemy, about forgiveness. They spoke about creating a European defense union, about the idea and the offer and the promise of lasting peace in Europe. 7 years after the Second World War. I can only say, wow, which political leadership was there behind. And let me be a little bit outspoken. Today, we speak about common procurement. You know what I want to say. I think we have to create a new narrative also on these issues. Until now, we only strengthen national armies with the decisions we made on European level. And we do this in a moment where the French right extreme is knocking on the door of the Élysée, and where in Germany the AfD gets around 25% in the polls. Dear colleagues, strong national armies and strong right extreme parties on national level. Historically, this is frightening me. Don't get me wrong, national armies are fundamental for the future of our security architecture, but we have to add now a European shield. We need an architecture like the Euro was on the economic side. We need an architecture which makes our Europe not revocable and stable for the future. The same goes, dear friends. The same goes, dear friends, with economy. Christian Democrats invented the social market economy. And again, the idea was not to talk about technical issues, but how to defeat the communism. Social market economy won against communism. And today our economic answer has to beat the authoritarians. Is the Chinese model providing better success economically? Or is our social market economy providing better success? That's the level of challenge in front of us. And we must clearly translate this then also in the daily life of our citizens. Loneliness, for me, one of the top social issues in our society. Education in a Chinese TikTok world. And do you remember 20 years ago, your post officers, when he brought mail to your house? In my village, it was a man with a uniform and we knew him. And there was a personal relationship. Today, the Amazon driver, do we really care about his or her working conditions? That is, in a way, the translation of these things. And finally, probably the biggest challenge for us in the way of doing politics. Everyone is today creating his own reality. Authoritarians are creating their own truth. They say freedom of speech allows also to work with lies. Dear colleagues, we believe facts are facts, and we do not play with truth. But let's be honest, there is a huge political battleground which we have to win in the next years in front of us. Dear colleagues, we know and we feel things are fundamentally changing, and we have to provide answers. That's the reason why I, as a candidate for the president of the EPP, want to propose to you that we are writing in the next 2 years a new general center-right political program to give answers on these fundamental questions. The days after European elections is the right moment to do this now. In Rotterdam, I call the EPP the rock of Europe, the solid ground. Today, dear friends, in Valencia, I would call the EPP the beating heart of Europe to provide the good answers. We must win the hearts and the minds of Europeans. And finally, basic for us as political family are families. Communities are at the heart of our narrative. As you know, I come from a small village in Bavaria. It's called Wildenberg. We have 1,300 inhabitants there. There is one school. On one hill there is a Catholic church, St. Andreas. On the other there is a hill. On the other hill there is our historic castle. And in this small community in Bavaria we only have one shop. But I tell you, we have 4 bars in my community, so-called Wirtshäuser in Bavaria. So they provide brilliant, really delicious Bavarian beer. And I tell you this because this is also a fundament, a ground for creating unity, togetherness in my community. And this feeling of togetherness, of communities, is the foundation of our today's Europe. And next to this, sharing the same values about democracy, freedom, rule of law. Americans may have their American dream, but we, as EPP and as Europeans, we have something better. It's a European way of life. As European People's Party, we stand for the European way of life, probably like no one else is doing so in today's political landscape of Europe. Dear colleagues, last week we mourned the loss of Pope Francis. Roberta mentioned it already. Meeting him and speaking with him was for me a lifetime honor. Allow me also to quote him what he said in a speech in the European Parliament. To build Europe, it takes a strong inspiration, a soul. It takes dreams. It takes values and a high political vision. That is our job description for the upcoming years. To give Europe the soul, the dreams Pope Francis spoke about. To stop the authoritarian wave and defend our European way of life. The EPP as the rock of Europe and also the beating heart of Europe. This is our mission, this is our job, this is our moment. Thank you so much.